last year because we didn't really know until late in the year what was going to happen, and then we found out, and it's like, oh, we got to teach you how to do this. So we're going to start this year and get in practice at it throughout the year. So at the end of each writing unit, we're going to just take some time to practice. So I think from the kids this morning, they said they read the book Heroes. Do you remember that book about the little boy?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're going to read that again. So just quick background. It's set during the 1960s or 70s, late 60s, early 70s. And this little boy is living in a time when the Vietnam War is going on. Okay, do you remember, has anybody know anything about the Vietnam War? Have I ever heard of it? It was a war that took place. America got involved to try to stop their government from making some really bad choices and treating people badly. It didn't really turn out very well for America. You'll learn about it next year. But this little boy's dad and uncle fought in a war before that called the World War II. Anybody heard of World War II?
Yeah.
Okay, you might have some knowledge about Hitler and the Nazis. Well, these men fought the Japanese as well, because America fought two groups. We fought the Nazis and the Japanese. So this has a lot to do with the way people look. So in case you forgot a little bit of background, that's it. In case you didn't do this last year, was anybody not here last year at that point? Okay. You may have forgotten, and that's okay. We're going to do it again. Has it ever killed anybody to read a book twice?
No.
Has it ever killed you to do something twice? No. It's good for you. It's good practice. Okay, this year you have more information in your head and more experience than you did last year. Yes, ma'am.
When Miss Day read it to us last year, she said, "Where are the teachers?"
Kind of already know last year that's what it was. We were all learning. So we're still kind of figuring it all out. So that's what your writing is going to be in this year. So we're going to continue to practice. That's why I always tell you, give me evidence. You can't just tell me this is my character's trait. Give me evidence. So you remember it might ask you about read a passage and it says, okay, name one character trait and give some evidence to support that. Is that kind of a question that sounds like what you remember from last year? It might say, what is the theme of the passage and give evidence. It might say, why does the author repeat certain things? And isn't that what we talked about? Repeating. Give evidence why. So it's a lot of what we already do. Really is more reading. I'm just being honest. So your attention is going to be on Miss Morales. She's going to start it, and then we'll finish it when we get back from lunch. So it'll take about 10 minutes to read, and then we'll finish when we get back from lunch. Okay? Where's your attention? Being respectful, right? Okay.
Okay, yes, like she said, you probably heard about it before, and it's about a Japanese American boy that you'll see what happens to him. But as I read, I want you to think about the feelings and the actions that are going in the story so you understand what's going on. Also, we're going to be looking at the conflict of the story, which is like the problems that the main character faces, the turning point, which is like when things flip around and the story takes a new course, and the resolution, which is how the story ends. The resolution is different from the solution because the solution does what? Fixes the problem. So the resolution is how it ends. It has to do with the solution, but it's just how the story ends at the finishes. Okay? So also reading Heroes by Ken Murchison. After school, sorry. Okay, my dad drove me to school every morning, but I wish he wouldn't. That was because other kids walking to school always turned around and stared. Some pointed, and others pretended their fingers were guns and aimed at us. How come we're always the bad guys? I asked my dad. That's only in the movies, he replied. Still, if I could talk my dad into it, I had him pull the truck over and drop me off down the street from school. After school, I got together with my friends. I tried to start a football game, but they wanted to play war again. That was because they had an enemy to fight, me. Tori had all the toy guns, and Zach and Reggie always helped bring them to the woods at the end of the street where I met them. Zach usually brought something that was his dad's. He showed us pictures of his father in the war or some of his medals. He was a war hero, Zach said, and then repeated how I always had to be the enemy when we play war because I look like them. So think about how Donnie's feeling right now.
Sad.
Why?
Because he always plays bad because I do.
They're judging him based on his appearance. Get moving, Donnie, Zach commanded. You're the bad guy and we're going to hunt you down. No, I am not, I protested. My dad was in our army and he fought in Italy and France, and my uncle Josh was in Korea. No way, Zach said. How could your dad or uncle be in our army? Tori asked. Yeah, Reggie agreed. There wasn't anybody looking like you guys on our side. If you can't prove it, you better start hiding, Donnie. I couldn't prove it, so I had to be the bad guy again. I hated it. Still, it was better than having no friends at all. But I knew my dad had stories that could prove he was a hero. I sometimes overheard him talking with his army buddies at the gas station. I probably asked him 100 times to tell me the old war stories, but each time he just shook his head. Once I tried to unpin all the war medals from my dad's veteran's cap at home to show everybody. I got into trouble for doing that. When I told him that I needed something to prove he was a hero, he just said, "You kids should be playing something else besides war." Uncle Josh was the same way. He sat in the station with us drinking his coffee, but he was always quiet and never talked about Korea. One time I asked him about it. Real heroes don't brag, he said. They just do what they're supposed to do. When he came to our house, he didn't like me watching war shows or on TV or even news about the new war in a country called Vietnam. I hated being the enemy so much that I decided to hide so my friends would never find me. I stepped quietly into the woods. Beams of sunlight shone between the trees. I kept going into the forest farther than I ever had before. The sun faded away and the woods got darker. All I heard was the shoes crunching twigs. Then something rustled in the bushes. It wasn't Tori, Zach, or Reggie. I was scared. I knew I had to find a way out of there. But what if I had been walking around in circles? I sat down on a big rock and tried to think, because the worst thing that I could do was panic. Heroes don't panic. They just do what they're supposed to do. Didn't his uncle Josh say the same thing? They just do what they're supposed to do. As Captain Donnie Okada, I led my men slowly, surely, and calmly through the thick forest until I saw sunlight in the distance. I came to a clearing. It was good to feel the sun again. Pow! We got you, Donnie. Zack and Reggie ran toward me in the clearing. I dropped my toy gun and dashed through the woods, heading down a trail. I slipped and slid most of the way on the seat of my pants. Then I ran as fast as I could. Those guys chased me all the way to my dad's gas station. They wouldn't quit. Pow, pow, pow. You're dead, Donnie. Uncle Josh hurried out from underneath the car he and my dad were fixing. Uncle Josh looked mad. Dad got up too to see what was going on. I am not the bad guy, I cried. Running to my dad's place, Dad put his hand on my shoulder. Come on, kids, he said. Donnie has had enough. Uncle Josh stared at the toy guns, and looked even madder. Aw, Donnie, you're not fun, Reggie said. So think about how his dad is feeling right now. Mad. Do you think he's gonna change his mind about helping Donnie?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I looked up at my dad. I almost yanked the pockets out of his oily vest. I looked up at my dad. I almost yanked the pockets of his oily gas station coveralls when I pleaded with him. See, Dad, can't you tell me anything? Can't you let me prove it to them? Can't we be heroes too? My dad looked at Uncle Yosh. Uncle Yosh took a moment to think, and then he nodded in agreement. We'll pick you up from school tomorrow, my dad said. At school the next day, the kids called me Cece and Daddy's boy. Finally, the bell rang and I headed toward the door. My classmates walked together in a big group and followed me. Hey, Donnie, someone called out. Then they all pointed at me with their fingers like guns. Pow, pow, pow. Then they chased me down the hallway. I hope Dad and Uncle Yosh showed up like they said they would. Outside, all the kids were excited and pointed to something down the street. I looked that way and I couldn't believe my eyes. My dad stood by his truck with his coveralls on, but he was also wearing sunglasses and his veteran's cap with all the medals over it. More than I had seen before, and I couldn't believe Uncle Yosh. He also wore sunglasses along with his uniforms and officer's hat. All the ribbons on his chest looked like the top of an open crayon box. His decoration and shiny brass buttons gleam in the sunlight. How do you think Donnie was feeling at that point? Happy. Uncle Yosh held my football in his head and it's in his hand. And when he found me in the crowd, he shouted, "Hey, Donnie, catch!" He threw a perfect spiral. Instead of driving me home like I thought it was the plan, my dad and Uncle Yosh stuck around for a little while to make sure I would be okay. They drove off, leaving me there holding the football. Who wants to play? I asked. Zach, Reggie, Tori, and a bunch of other kids did. So we ran to the playground. This time, they were following me instead of chasing me.
Keep it all in your head, because we'll talk about
Yes.
it after lunch.
Well,
Did y'all remember the book?
Yeah.
You remembered it?
I think
Yeah. I like the book. There's a lot more to it than that. But, right? Not at all. It was a different time back then. Life was different. Okay. Choice one. Go ahead and put your chairs. Not many of you, hey.